Have you ever looked at an object and wondered how it came to be? Well, geography is the study of the Earth and the people and animals that live in it. Do you know where the pyramids are and why they were built? What causes earthquakes? And which country has the largest population in the world? Find out the answers to all these burning questions and many more on Why, What, Where. What are the pyramids? You may have heard of the pyramids, those large triangular stone tombs that have been standing for thousands of years. Inside you can find some clues to what life may have been like back in ancient Egypt. Can you guess to whom the pyramids belonged? The rich kings of Egypt, who were known as pharaohs. They had the pyramids built so that after they died, they could keep their body and their belongings safe and protected. The Egyptians understood that if their body was wrapped up in bandages and rubbed in special lotions and oils, that it would be preserved for longer, and they hoped it would last into the afterlife. You can still see the pyramids today, although you have to travel a long way to find them. They're found on the western side of the Nile River in Egypt. It's very dry in Egypt, but this is actually really good for the structure of the pyramids and is probably one of the reasons why they've been standing for so long. This is the Sphinx. You can find it in front of the pyramids in Giza. It has a distinctive body that looks like a lion, and its head is shaped like a pharaoh. On the walls of the tombs are paintings that give us some idea of how the person buried inside lived. These paintings are very important to scientists and researchers who can actually examine their meaning to work out what life may have been like in ancient Egypt. They give us important clues as to who people were and what they got up to in their daily lives. Today, Egypt is really popular with tourists. Many people go just to visit the pyramids, which are one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Where in the world is Egypt? Egypt is in the northeast corner of Africa. What is the Taj Mahal? Long ago, in 1631, an emperor named Shah Jahan designed and had built one of the most beautiful buildings in the world, in memory of his late wife Mumtaz. This white marble dome-shaped building is known as a mausoleum and was named the Taj Mahal. The monument was built in the name of love and devotion for Mumtaz in a city called Agra in India. The Taj Mahal took 22 years to build, and about 22,000 workers were employed to help build it. Between 2 and 4 million tourists visit Agra every year to see this structure. The Taj Mahal is considered to be the 7th wonder of the world. Who built Stonehenge? Why? Have you ever heard of Stonehenge? It's a strange and ancient building structure of huge stones that stand alone in the Salisbury Plain, which is in Wiltshire, England. What is even more odd about this famous collection of stones is that there is no recorded evidence of who built them or why. Although you can imagine there are loads of theories. Some people believe that Stonehenge was built to be used as a temple, and others say it helped with studying the stars in the night sky or watching eclipses. Others think that it could have been built by aliens or people with magical powers. However, these are all just theories because there's no actual proof. What we do know is that Stonehenge was built over thousands of years, from 2800 to 1800 BC. What is hard to imagine is how people in ancient times could have moved the stones. In those days, they didn't have any trucks or cranes like you'd find on a building site nowadays. They must have been pretty strong back then. You can visit Stonehenge and perhaps discover the truth for yourself of how it came to be. People from all over the world come to see these giant statues and even take home a piece from the stones, which is said to give you good luck. Did you know that, like the Taj Mahal, Stonehenge is one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world? Where is the coldest place on Earth? Imagine living in a place that is almost completely covered by ice. It would have to be pretty chilly, huh? Antarctica is not only the coldest place on Earth, it's also the windiest, wettest and driest place on Earth. How is this possible? It's because Antarctica is very much like a large desert covered in ice rather than sand. So although 90% of Antarctica is under ice, it only receives less than 2 inches of rain a year. This is a region known as the dry valleys. These valleys have not seen rainfall for over 2 million years. The freezing cold temperatures and lack of water, plant life and animal life make Antarctica quite similar to the conditions found on the planet Mars. You may have learned at school that there are 7 continents in the world. Well, Antarctica is the 5th largest. The temperature can fall to minus 89 degrees. How many people do you think actually live there? That's actually a trick question. No culture or race of people is native to Antarctica. However, many researchers, biologists, geographers and scientists live there temporarily to research and study the continent. It's estimated that at any given time there are at least 1,000 people living in Antarctica, but this number varies depending on the season. If all the ice in Antarctica were to melt, the level of the sea would rise by as much as 200 feet. Antarctica has no trees or bushes at all. The only things that really grow are moss and algae. The only animals that live in Antarctica depend on the sea for their food, and they leave the continent when the winter arrives. But the most famous inhabitant of Antarctica has to be the penguin. Penguins are birds that don't fly, but they make excellent swimmers. They live on pack ice and in the oceans around Antarctica and breed on the land or ice surfaces along the coast and on islands. What are the 7 continents of the world? Europe, South America, North America, Asia, Africa, Australia, Antarctica. What causes earthquakes? Imagine you're standing in the middle of a room and the ground starts to shake underneath you. Well, that's what it feels like when an earthquake happens. Earthquakes actually occur along fault lines, which are in the Earth's crust. They can happen over really large areas, but pass by really quickly. In fact, they usually last under 60 seconds. What do you think actually causes earthquakes? To put it simply, the Earth we live on moves all the time, and its outer surface is made up of pieces that also move past each other slowly. Sometimes huge rocks can also develop, and when they shift, they usually move with more force than the Earth is used to, and this can cause an earthquake. Another way to think about it is to imagine holding a plastic ruler straight out in front of you. I bet you if you pushed at it from both ends, it would bend and then eventually break. Well, this is what can happen to the Earth's crust. Scientists don't know when an earthquake will hit, but they are always doing research to find out. When the ground shakes, you know that an earthquake is happening. The things on your shelves will shift and fall over. and you may hear a rumbling noise. You can measure the strength of earthquakes by something called a Richter scale. 5 is the highest, but anything below 4 usually doesn't cause much damage. You can find out more about earthquakes by going to your local library or by looking them up on the internet. Did you know that more than 1 million earthquakes rattle the world each year? What is a diamond mine? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to crawl inside a mine? Perhaps you visited one before or know somebody who works in a mine. Mining is the process of removing minerals and metals from the earth. A hole or tunnel is dug into the ground to take out metals, coal, salt, and other minerals. Copper, tin, nickel, iron ore, gold, silver, and diamonds are just some examples of what can be mined. Diamonds of all colours of the rainbow can be found in certain mines, but the 3 most common colours found are white, brown, and yellow. Diamonds require specific geological conditions in order to form, so that means they're only found in certain places. South Africa produces most of the world's diamonds, but there is also diamond production in Canada, Australia, China, and South America. Diamonds were formed at least 990 million years ago, although some are estimated to be as many as 4.25 billion years old. There are 2 ways to mine diamonds: open pit mining, where diamonds are on the surface of the ground, or underground mining, where the jewels are found below ground. Diamonds can also be removed from sand, gravel, and clay. It is unlikely you would find one in your backyard or at the beach. It might be worth exploring though. Did you know that diamonds are carried to the surface by volcanic eruptions? What is a landslide? You may not have heard of a landslide, as they don't happen in all parts of the world. But you will know one if you see one, because just like you'll see with this landslide in Japan, the mess and damage from them is pretty huge. Sometimes an entire side of a mountain can collapse. All the dirt, rocks, and anything that's on the land just slides down the slope until it crashes into one big mess at the bottom. Pretty amazing, huh? There are different reasons as to why they occur, and scientists are always researching the causes. Too much rain can cause landslides because a slope can get heavier and then collapse. Have you heard of erosion? This is what happens when things wear away, and erosion can be another cause of a dangerous landslide, especially if the dirt and earth erosion occurs on a mountain. Landslides travel really fast and can cause a lot of damage, particularly if they happen in towns or villages. Where are deserts found? Can people live there? When you think of deserts, what sort of life forms do you imagine living there? Do you picture strange creatures living in the sand? What plants, fungi, animals and people might there be in this part of the world's great desert lands? Deserts are found in northern Africa, western North America, western Asia, the centre of Australia and on the west coast of South America. Deserts are very dry because, like Antarctica, they don't get much rain. Wind helps deserts form. The wind that blows in the desert comes from far away water. As it travels, the moistness leaves. By the time any wind reaches the desert, it's very dry. So the wind helps form sand dunes. Sand dunes are huge piles of sand blown by strong gusts of wind. This is a desert in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, and the people who live here are called Bedouins. Living in the desert is almost impossible because it's so hot, so the Bedouins have to travel around with their herds of sheep, goats and camels, moving from one fertile area to another. There are many animals in the desert. Some are very large, like horses or gazelles. Both are big and have to travel long distances to find water at a spring or an oasis. Camels are also extremely big. They have 1 or 2 humps used for storing water and food. This means that camels can survive on very little water. The desert is one of the hottest places in the world because it absorbs more heat from the sun than land in humid climates. Most deserts get less than 25 centimetres of rain every year. In summer, temperatures can reach 100 degrees or even higher. Winters are mild in some deserts, while others have freezing temperatures and snow. It all depends which desert you're in. Coming up, we find out which country has the most people and discover the world's tallest mountain. Which country has the largest population in the world? The land of China is not the world's largest country. In terms of size, it's third, behind Russia and Canada. However, when it comes to the number of people living there, China wins hands down. It's home to about 1/5 of the world's population. China lies in Eastern Asia and its capital is called Beijing. As well as all the people who live there, China welcomes more than 30 million tourists every year. It's because there are so many things to do there and so many beautiful places to see. Because China is home to so many people, they've introduced a family planning law that only allows Chinese women to have 1 child. This was introduced in 1979 so they could slow down the growth of the population. Otherwise, the country would get too overcrowded. India, where you find the Taj Mahal, comes second in terms of population size. But by 2040, India is expected to have overtaken China to become the most populated country in the world. What is the famous long wall in China called? The Great Wall of China. What is the longest river in the world? The longest river in the world is called the Nile. It runs through Africa and is 4,135 miles long. In fact, Africa has 2 of the 10 longest rivers. The Congo, which flows through the centre of the continent, is the world's 8th longest at 2,914 miles. What's the second longest river? Why, the Amazon, of course. The River Nile runs through Egypt and makes the land rich and green across the desert. How do you think geographers measure these rivers? They work out the distance from where the river starts to where it ends. In ancient Egypt, the Egyptians used to live along the Nile and do their farming there. They would use the soil to help grow their food and to feed their animals. It was a great source of water, and they used to travel down the Nile to sell and buy things in other areas of Egypt. The River Nile was so important to the lives of the ancient Egyptians that they could not have survived without it. Have you heard of papyrus? This is another name for the reeds that grew along the Nile. The Egyptians were so clever that they used to make paper and boats from the reeds. In the 1960s, a large dam was built called the Aswan Dam, and it meant that from 1970, the yearly flooding of the Nile River could be controlled because the dam was able to hold large amounts of water. Where is the Amazon River? We now know that the River Nile is the longest river in the world. Can you remember what the second longest river in the world is? That's right, the Amazon River. It's about 4,000 miles from start to finish, and it winds its way through most of South America. It's also the widest river in the world. There are all sorts of deadly creatures that live in the Amazon River. These include piranhas, the most ferocious fish in the world, and the anaconda, the largest snake in the world. With all these deadly creatures, would you want to swim in the Amazon River? This Slovenian man did. His name is Martin Strel, and he decided to brave crocodiles, piranhas and anacondas to break a world record. Along the trip, Martin and his team had several near misses and often had to steer towards swift-flowing currents to avoid being set upon by piranha. Martin even got swept away by a whirlpool once and separated from his team and boat another time. The team was constantly at risk from parasites that would carry diseases such as malaria and yellow fever. It would probably be a lot more fun and comfortable going along the Amazon River in a boat. What is the tallest mountain in the world? Have you heard of Mount Everest? It's the name of the tallest mountain in the world and was named after Sir George Everest, who was a British general. Mount Everest is part of the Himalayas, which includes all 5 of the world's highest mountains and is found in Asia between Nepal and China. From as early as 1921, climbers tried to reach Everest's summit, which is the top of the mountain. Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay were the first 2 people to successfully climb Mount Everest in 1953. Since then, Everest has been climbed by over 400 people, including a blind person. Climbers start with hikes at lower altitudes, which refers to distances above sea level. They also climb up the mountain slowly. Experienced climbers know that the climb is dangerous. It takes skill, teamwork, good weather and luck to get to the top. Strong winds, sudden blizzards and avalanches happen often. The air on Mount Everest is very thin and it's 97 degrees below freezing. Talk about cold! Do you want to climb Mount Everest one day? You would need to dress very warmly. Did you know that Mount Everest is also one of the 7 natural wonders of the world? Learning about the Earth can be loads of fun. The world in which we live is made up of so many different people, plants and animals. By studying geography, you can discover fascinating facts about cultures, landscapes and environments across the world and the links between them.